Hey guys, this will be video 2 for the how to build a custom 1958 specs Explorer replica. However, it's a fairly unique guitar in that it will have Lollar P90s, trapezoid. It'll have trapezoid inlays. We'll have a parchment binding and the Lollar P90s cream, nickel hardware, Tonepros, and it'll have a hard maple cap that will be painted Stuart McDonald. I think it's called a vintage gold or antique gold. It's the one you like, Ed. So nonetheless, it's going to be a very cool guitar, very rare guitar, and it's going to be. In video 1, I basically said this guitar was inspired by like a 1956 Les Paul, but nonetheless, just inspired by. And so it's going to have the 4 controls layout, which is something I've never seen before and something I have never built before. But from a standpoint of scale and function, we're going to cover that, and I'm extremely happy with it. So the only drawback is I don't think we'll be going with this particular body. I'm not there yet, but I'm about 90% certain we probably will not, because when I first started talking to the client, I was kind of making some assumptions that were a little bit inaccurate because he had played a guitar that I had restored for a guy, and it was much darker. And I just had in the back of my mind that, yeah, he'll probably end up going with the darker type guitar. But I let him know, said, hey, please send me a picture of a guitar that you really love. And what he sent me back was a guitar that was just very clear. And when you're working with clear mahogany, you got to be very selective about your grain and whatnot. And I don't think this one would pass the test. So nonetheless, I got some great practice building this particular body, got to work through the scale and the layout and all that jazz. Nothing else will be changing. And obviously, it's not like this was a waste to build this body. But and I've already purchased the additional mahogany, and Ed and I had a conversation last Friday, I believe it was, or Saturday. So he's aware of everything that we're dealing with. So that was a bit of the delay in that I realized once we're going to go with a more clear guitar, I had to be far more selective of the wood that I used. So I tapped the brakes, and basically it put me about a week behind on this build. Not complaining, just that's the reason that I haven't done a video for this one, because I went ahead and did this machine work as if there was a possibility that he might have changed his mind and said, I found one that was really dark and it's beautiful, let's go that. Then we'd be ahead of the curve. But with that said, I am ahead of the curve in that, as I just clarified, this scale layout, the scale and the layout for the controls is very cool. So when I'm machining into the new mahogany tree, which is behind me, I was amazing. I found an enormous piece of mahogany. Actually, I didn't find it. It's been on the shelf at Woodcraft for about 3 or 4 months. And it was so enormous that no one really could afford it or could justify buying it. So I saw the great opportunity, and the cool thing is also that here's the hard maple. This will be the maple cap for Ed's. This is the actual hard maple bird's eye for Ed's guitar. So it'll be painted Goldtop. So we'll see it throughout the build. But I didn't buy it because it was pretty. I just bought it because it was hard maple. Okay, with this video, what I want to cover is just kind of continuing from video 2, where at the end of the video, I was reminded that Ed definitely wanted to go with the 4 controls layout. And then that's when I started assessing, just locations and all that stuff as to where. I've got to cover somewhere. Let me pause. Okay, let me check, make sure that's running. 49. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, just to make certain that once I started building the guitar, it would look really cool as well. And as I was talking with Ed as well as with Eric, it's like both all three of us agreed, man, we've never seen that before, and that's really cool. So I like it. I like it. And from a standpoint of functionality, it ought to be pretty awesome. So let's do just that. Let's talk about the difference and how I made that determination, even if I had have only had one body to work with, and in other words, not screw it up. And I'm not so certain I could have pulled it off without the Stuart McDonald templates, which I've already talked about. So throughout this video series, I'll be talking about how to utilize these in order to, to get where you're going. Because the cool thing about the Stewmac 59 Les Paul template here, this is down the center, and this is something I probably didn't clarify enough, Ed, that, down the center of the guitar, it's a Gibson. This was based on an actual 1959 Les Paul that was owned by Dan Erlewine of Stuart McDonald. And so down the middle, it's a Gibson product as far as locations and positions and all that jazz. And it's irrelevant, what we do out here on the outside, whether it's a Flying V or, an Explorer. So down the middle, we're just working with whatever scale it is we're working with, which Ed and I elected to just go with the traditional 24.562 or 5.63, I believe it is. It's called a 24 3/4, but nonetheless. So with that said, I was able to take advantage of using this template, and that's exactly where my bridge location will be and my tailpiece location. So we've already covered this stuff, but in addition to having the 59 Les Paul template, well, then I've got this template here as well for doing P90s. I had clarified in the last video, I had to machine these two locations right here, and I made a mistake, and I had it upside down. So if you see me holding it like this, and this is probably where you got confused, Ed. You asked me if that bridge was going to be tapered a little bit or straight. You might have seen me showing it like that right there, and what it was, I had mistakenly drilled these two locations for a different guitar, and had it upside down. So not to just continue to explain things like that, but with these two templates here, in other words, starting with this template first, it being the base of the build, then all we had to do now, and just to make matters simple, I'm just going to go into the tailpiece slots, and this is where I was talking about, Ed. Ed and I have already know exactly what it is we're going to do. Let me just measure this, but I'm pretty certain it's going to be right at about 1/4 of an inch that we're going to be moving it forward. No, I was right. It is 3/8 inch different on the front. However, it's about 1/4 on the back. So it's actually just ever so slightly under 1/4. But if you're okay with it, Ed, what I would like to do at a minimum, move the back edge of this P90 location up to this edge right here, because as I had mentioned to you on the two late 60s, early 70s Les Pauls that I restored that had P90s in them, the P90 was not in this. It was not in this location right here. This is probably the only way I'll be able to show it is, and not continue to just talk about it, is this is what I meant by these templates are just near indispensable. Okay, so that's what Stuart McDonald is saying is the correct location for the P90 in the bridge location. However, this template would have been based on a very early 50s. Now, I've already covered this in video 1, and Ed is aware of what it is that we're doing here, re-engineering this location forward slightly. But just be careful and proceed with caution. If you just order this template and throw it atop some mahogany and start routing, you might end up with a P90 location that was based on the very early 1950s guitar. And because they weren't doing P90s and Explorers and Vs and stuff like that, and that's why I had made in the statement and video 1 and in numerous videos in the past, my thought process here is very possibly in the very early 50s, Gibson might have been competing against Fender, trying to get a more twangy bridge sound, but whether that was a success or failure, that's irrelevant. But because when I restored those two late 60s authentic Gibson Les Pauls, they were not replicas, they were actual Gibson Les Pauls. I've already covered this, that P90 was considerably further forward. And based on what I just experienced right there, that'd be awesome if this will fall in place. Oh, wow, how cool. Okay. So you see that location right there, the actual P90 in the, it's a little bit tricky to do, but I'll try my best to make this work. The P90 locations in the authentic late 60s Gibson Les Pauls was closer to that location right there. However, I think to be safe, as you had clarified, Ed, this is not quite a quarter of an inch, but I think as long as we move it in that direction about a quarter of an inch, the P90 will be hitting in a really comfortable location right there. So, but with that said, one of the very last things I'm going to be doing is machining for that P90. I can do all the internal wiring channel route work and all that jazz, and then once this maple cap goes down, I probably won't do any of the P90 route work until I know exactly where the fretboard is going to end, because you're not working, you're not working with a pickup ring that can conceal a little bit of an error in your route work. You're working with a guitar that is absolutely 100% exposed, and most likely I'll be holding the P90 off the end of the fretboard, just enough to be holding it off of it. They're extremely close. So with that said, typically the route is flush with the end of the fretboard, and just the actual spacing on the pickup is the only thing that gives it a little bit of a gap. So with that said, there's no sense in machining for the neck P90 or the bridge P90 until it's almost kind of a guitar. Where it is pretty much a husk. And then with that fretboard up on that husk, then I know exactly where my bridge. See, this would be if that's the 16th fret, I think that's right. 16, 17, yeah. 19, 18, 17, yeah, that would be the 16th fret location right there. So, but if I was off by, say, a 32nd of an inch either way, then I might change my bridge location just a little bit. And then once I know this bridge location, then we're ready to pull the trigger spot on with regards to where we actually want that P90. So just hear me out for a while, Ed. That's going to be still a little bit to be determined, but to be determined based on making certain that we don't machine it with the 1950s Stuart McDonald templates. Okay, and then also that I don't make any assumptions about this P90 location right there, because I might miss it a little bit in relation to where I need to put my fretboard on the guitar. Okay, so there's a lot of, you're working from these templates, and for the most part, it would be great in a perfect world to just throw the templates up there and do all the machining and all the route work. But it really boils down to when you're fitting that neck, you might make a bit of a mistake on the neck and have it about a 64th of an inch too long or too short. Well, then that's no big deal because you can work it all out in the fitment and then redefine that bridge location. Again, I'm talking about, splitting hairs here, just half a millimeter, maybe 3/4 of a millimeter, 64th of an inch, 32nd of an inch, things that aren't really noticeable. And then that will actually then dictate the actual pick guard. And it's funny because in video one, I was showing this pick guard, but it never really dawned on me that actually the P90 is probably going to be about right here in that location, and is probably going to be further up this way. So I'll be able to utilize this template to build the pick guard per the footprint of the body in my templates, but I'll be creating a custom pick guard template so that it will be specifically for P90s and based on Ed's actual guitar wherever we end up putting that bridge pickup. Okay, so very much this is actually truly a custom guitar, and this is what happens when you're doing just that, where you're truly building a custom guitar. You're working from a center line, a footprint, a scale, and then different pickups, P90 versus Filtertrons versus humbuckers, and on and on and on. But the cool thing is, for the most part, that right there, once you get those points defined, everything else just becomes interdependent upon that location right there, and then even that location will dictate where the I have one over here. I use this for doing layout where I've got a high E string on there and a low E string, so I always like to leave it on, but then that will dictate the positioning of that. And I always build just using the Cluson USA, but then right there at the last ed, we'll come in with the Tonepros, and I'll just fit everything per the Tonepros stuff, and then I go from there. However, the Tonepros, the anchors, and I'm getting way too far ahead of myself, but the Tonepros anchors are a little bit different from the Cluson. These are a cheaper zinc. So if you ever see me showing this is not the anchor that I'll be using in your guitar. I'll be using basically the identical anchor system that I used in Eric's 81, but it'll be from the Tonepros, and it is a hard steel. It is zinc plated, but it is over a very hard steel. It's not a pot metal, and those will be epoxied in, and then it'll just continually progress to a custom build after, a custom item after a custom item. So if you ever see me showing something like that, I buy this type stuff for like just doing videos and like cheap knockoff mock-ups and stuff like that. But this is the Cluson USA, that the center lines of the stud locations are identical per the 50 specs. So if you see me working with this Cluson USA stuff, it's not going to affect once we change over to the Tonepros at all. Will not change it at all, other than it'll be an improvement because it's a little bit better product. Okay, so I talked about, so I'm going to start talking about the P90 stuff for right now, but I just want to get it out of the way so that we can put it to rest and know that I'm still not there, but I'm getting pretty darn close as to where that bridge location is going to go. But we got plenty of time to change our mind, or actually just change based on design, because Ed and I were talking about his target tone a little bit, and I got to make certain that I just stay on the same page with him and not get too bright, not get too warm, but also build a beautiful guitar. Okay, so I've already talked. This is awesome. I feel like I've covered a lot of ground just by going off the cuff there. Won't have to talk about the pick guard anymore. So, and then I'll talk about the parchment. I'll go ahead and cover this just for the sake of the video, because this is why I'm doing the video. This is the actual parchment that I'll be making your pickguard out of, and you can basically see that's about all you can get out of it. I take that back. I'm able to get, pretty much all the covers, and if I had like a round Les Paul three-way cover of some sort, or if I had a little hot dog cover on the back there, which we elected to go from the front side. So nonetheless, out of that, I think this is like 11 by 12 or something. Um, and it's a beautiful vintage 3-ply where it's a black parchment. And then when I cut my angles, it's basically identical to the 50s specs. And these used to not be available, but there's some guy on I think eBay that is selling them now. But just because they look vintage correct, I'm not 100% certain that they are. And it's just that I've already machined all of my templates per my Electric Herald 1958 specs. So there's no sense in ordering a pickguard from someone else where these locations might be very, very unlikely that these locations would marry up based on his $60 pickguard. So your pickguard will still be handmade per my templates per your body. Okay. And what I was going to show you, this is the parchment binding. So parchment pickguard, parchment binding, a little bit of difference in the color, but according to what your Lollars look like, the Lollar pickup covers, they're probably going to be more creamy. But the cool thing about that is they will be able to stand alone, even if they're considerably darker in tint, and it'll be really beautiful because the binding on the guitar will be vintage correct parchment. The pickguard will be vintage correct parchment per 1958 specs Flying V. Modern probably, if they had a pickguard on the Modern. And then the, which I don't even know if that guitar exists, and the Explorer. So that'll be the material that I'm working with, and it'll be beautiful. But even if your Lollar pickups are a little bit darker, they'll be really beautiful because they'll stand alone. And we put Lollar P90s in Ethan's 1955 Les Paul replica that I built, the Les Paul Custom replica that was, gosh, like 5 years ago. And I can't remember if we did parchment or cream or black. I think we did. Wow, that's weird. I'll have to go to my early video series and see. But I'll go to that 55 Les Paul custom replica, and I might be able to see exactly what the parchment color, the cream Lollar color actually looks like. But regardless, I'll be surprised if it's virtually identical to either one of those. It's probably going to be a little bit darker. Okay, and what else was I going to say? I'm not certain I clarified this. I'm almost certain I forgot to clarify this. But when it comes to the Kluson 6-in-line tuners, I'll be going with the vintage nickel push-in. Wow, these things are so hard to get to open. Damn. Man, talking about something making a damn fool out of you. These are Les Paul tuners, but they're very similar. These are not Kluson, but these are Gato. They're very identical. I'll just keep these stored in this box. But nonetheless, the vintage Kluson. Well, what do you know? Let's just take advantage of the guitar we're actually going to build. Oh, I hope this presses in. Oh no, I forgot. I haven't machined this one yet. But nonetheless, they'll be the press-in bushings per vintage specs. But from a scale standpoint, that is very much almost identical to what the tuner button will look like in relation to the scale of the headstock. So, in other words, all the parts that I go with on your guitar, Ed, will be vintage reproduction stuff. and they will be Kluson USA, because to my knowledge, I don't know if there's anyone out there that makes the 6-in-line tuner. See, these are 3x3. On your 6-in-line tuner, there's the flat in the middle, and there's only that little tail end on the end there, and on the outside end down here. All the others, they actually butt up against one another, perfectly in line with the screw. Okay, so sorry to go off the rails there, but nonetheless, what you are looking at here is virtually identical to what your headstock will look like from the back. The Kluson tuners are a little bit nicer than the Gatos, but not much, because the Gatos are really very nice little tuners. And the Kluson tulip button is even slightly more amber than this. It's not the green. It is not the green like you see on some of the vintage reproduction guitars. It's just a really beautiful tuner. Okay, it's what I've used on all the Explorer and Flying V replicas, and it works. And it will maintain vintage correct as well. We may have already spoken about that, Ed, and if we have, I apologize. But I know for a fact I didn't pull any of these items out in the last video, because that would have been premature, and talked about this type of stuff. But even though I know that we were already on the same page about the nickel hardware and that type of stuff. So anyway, let me check the time. 26 minutes. Awesome. Okay, let me pause, get the table organized a little bit, and just study this subject and determine how it is I want to dive back into the video. Okay, something I did not discuss in relation to the headstock and tuners and all that stuff. Let me try to make certain I keep this backdrop clear. I think I might have presented this just in video 1, but the headstock on the right is my 58 specs Explorer replica headstock. Very, very similar to the Electric Herald drawings, which I know I talked about that briefly, but I just wanted to let you know this is an identical tracing of Eric's 1981 Gibson, and it's a little bit difficult to tell because I have the leg routing extension on here, but where the green template ends, that's the beginning of the truss. That's the beginning of the nut on the neck fretboard. So it might look a little odd and a little more squatty, but if you can see, the one on the right, the true 1958 specs, is a little bit more of a beak design, which is beautiful and in keeping with the 58 design. I don't want to use this design, but I just want to let you know, Ed, that if for some strange reason you just hated this, but you wanted to maintain some sort of Gibson profile, we can go with this one on the left here. But it's pretty. It's actually different, quite different. So let me put it where it would be. Okay, I'm lining up the end or the beginning of the nut location. I'm lining up the center lines, and you can see that on the, let me see if I can do this without it slipping apart. The short is, they're considerably different. And I would be afraid to go with the green one on your guitar, Ed, because I've done mine on every one of the ones I've built. But for some strange reason, if you just did not like that, we could go with the 81 profile, which is the green. And basically what it boils down to is the green one, the 81 one, is actually just not, it's not quite as far pitched down. This one pitches down just a little bit more, but also you can see it's a little bit thinner out here on the end in relation to this one up here. So I'm gonna stop. But just let me know if you might be undecided about that. If you're asking in my opinion, 9.9 times out of 10, I would far prefer to do this. I know it's weight and balance in relation to the guitar. This one there's more mass here, and believe it or not, that little bit of material might create a little bit more weight way out there on the very end that could cause the guitar to dive. So, but I just wanted you to see that I've got the ability to make that one as well. Okay, now let's start talking about electronics. You had mentioned, hey, what did I think about the possibility of changing this three-way location and flipping it around where it's more accessible? I don't have a problem doing that stuff, but that's another one of those things where let's engineer that out later on, because I don't want to do something that would look really wonky with the design. But then again, I don't want to do something that will force you to struggle playing the guitar. And it's fairly far down where that location goes. Well, let me back up. You can see, yeah, it is. It is pretty much all the way down. So you can see about where it is supposed to go. And I say that to say this, I'm very particular about maintaining scale. Now, I know that we've deviated quite a bit down here, but I'm about to mock these up and show these 4 locations. If we do reposition this a little bit, I want to be real careful that we don't do anything too extreme. So I say that to say this: if you get a chance, any guitar that you've got, maybe just take the tip, the 3-way switch tip, and take, like, if you've got a Strat or something like that, or maybe even like a Les Paul, right at the very end of the Les Paul, tape this little thing down there in your favorite location that feels really comfortable, and then give me a dimension from, like the end of the fretboard, and tell me how extreme you might need to move that in. It's not important that I know right now, because the body will be machined to put it anywhere. But I just want to let you know that when it comes to moving that thing slightly, I want to be real careful that I don't create a real weird looking design. But again, clarifying, I do want it to be very functional for you as well. And I don't have a problem moving it all the way up to there if that's necessary. But just be thinking about the importance of function first, and then just let me know what you could tolerate, and then that will help me as I'm progressing through. Because I intentionally machined these a little bit longer in this direction, because I have in the past had this design so that rather than the L-type 3-way, I had just a short 3-way, and then I put a Tessie kill switch right there for this guy, and it was pretty cool. And then I've actually put a Tessie kill switch back here in an Explorer Replica, which was bizarre. I thought it was going to be in a weird location, but it was awesome. It worked out perfectly. Excuse me. So anyway, I don't have a problem doing custom wiring, but there's a lot of thought that goes into this type of stuff right here from a visual standpoint. So just let me know, because you had mentioned that you had never owned an Explorer, and I say that to say this doesn't feel nearly as weird and distant as it looks on the guitar. And I tell you what, let me do this. Let me give you a dimension as well, out of all fairness, because you might actually be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a dimension from the corner of a humbucker I'm going to go from the very bottom top screw location. It is 4 1/8 of an inch, down. And it looks like it's pretty much directly in line with the 19th fret. Okay, so I'm not going to try to measure off the side of that fretboard because it's probably wrong, but just remember it's roughly 4 1/8 of an inch on an angle directly under the 19th fret location is where the design calls for it to be. But if you need it moved in, just let me know. I'm not going to deny you that opportunity for it to function properly for you. Even if it looks kind of strange to me because I've never seen it before, that's irrelevant. We definitely want it to function properly. Okay, let me pause, get a drink of water. Okay, let's talk about variations from the historical design as far as knob locations, potentiometer locations. Okay, so, man, this is going to be difficult. Let me put a little clamp on it. Because I've got to be able to show this on a bit of an angle. The short is, I don't think it's going to feel, I'm almost 100% certain it's not going to feel kind of strange at all. And especially considering the fact that you've never played an Explorer, or, you never owned one. It's not like your primary guitar or anything. So, with that said, you can see how close it is. Okay, see, that's the master tone for the 58, bridge volume for the 58, neck volume for the 58. That would be the neck tone for a Les Paul. Take that back. A true Les Paul is further forward and a little bit down, but only because it has, the lower bout. But in relation to, I'm just doing a comparative of my 4 controls layout influenced by the Les Paul in relation to the actual 58 Explorer. So you can see that the master tone location that you would have been used to working with on the 58 is already in that location right there. So we really didn't deviate from that distance. Well, I'll tell you exactly how much it is. It's less than 1/8 of an inch for that particular location. Then there would have been another potentiometer right here in this location. Let me see if I can find something. Yeah, it's not going to work. You probably can see that clear enough as long as I move it. So if there's a reflection there, you can see what I'm doing. I'm doing a comparative between these 2 locations now in relation to these 2 locations. So we're definitely within the footprint as far as reach. That would have been the master tone, the bridge volume, the neck volume in your guitar. If we're laying it out like a traditional Les Paul, then that will be the neck tone, neck volume, bridge volume, bridge tone. Okay. And the cool thing is, as I mentioned in our conversation, I was concerned that because this is a kind of a small area down here, that I might have to lay it out per an SG, which is a much tighter, and I mean the SG is considerably tighter. They are super, super close as far as the little the layout and everything. I know it's not to scale. But I know they're super tight. But as soon as I laid my Stuart McDonald template up there based on the true 59 locations, it was a perfect fit. I mean, it's just beautiful. So, and the reason I like talking about this type of stuff is because I've never seen that before. And if I've never seen it, I've never done it. And coming right out of the gate doing it the first time when I was doing that real-time layout in video one. As soon as I saw that the master tone of a 58 versus the neck tone of where we laid it out were so close, I knew we weren't going to be making a mistake. And also left an enormous amount of material in the body so that if it did take a nasty blow, it's not going to blow apart on you. Okay. So we talked about repositioning that if you want to. That's cool. If you have to, we'll do that. And then these controls are really working out well. And not just in, like in guesstimation, literally in theory, as well as from a functional standpoint. This is one of the things that prompted the entire video. This is the rough location for, the tail piece. And now you can see basically, I'll kind of cowboy this. Maybe they'll stay together. I've only got one long potentiometer, but I'll be able to hold that in position. In other words, I don't want to stop and take the time to load it full of potentiometers because I've only got one long potentiometer, and B, it would take too long. Oh, there it is. Well, I may have to because I'm running out of material. I'm running out of little tabs. Drill bit tips. Now, that is probably... All right, let's just fall apart in real time. Jesus. I swear I haven't been drinking. But no doubt, these things will make a fool out of you on camera. It looks great, man. I love it. Let's go with it. So, it's killer. It really is. I'm not just saying that. That's really awesome. And these are very close. They might be falling down maybe 1/8 of an inch, but for the most part, they're very close. That one's spot on where it would be because it has a potentiometer in it. But I love it. I think it's very cool. And the fact that this is getting the maple cap, that allows me to machine all the way up for the wiring channel, because in a traditional Explorer, you're going to have to stop that route back here somewhere so that the pick guard obviously will conceal that design. And again, a lot of this was probably based on the fact that they were seriously influenced by what Leo Fender had presented. And I've said it in numerous videos in the past. I'm not really a big Fender fan. I'm not crazy about them. I don't hate them. But I got to tell you, man, Leo Fender, when he got in, Ted McCarty, I believe the guy's name, that was running Gibson, when he got in their hair, I don't think they ever recovered from that, because they were truly trying to redefine their Gibson to be more competitive with that line. And that's a lot of this whole, upper route work, and then just cover it with a pick guard and all that jazz. But with this case being a custom guitar with the solid maple cap, it allowed me to do some really beautiful internal clean channel work and not have to do any drill work or anything. Because when you're building a traditional 58 replica that's going to be in just a solid body and receive the pick guard, you have to stop your route work back here, and then you have to come in with about a 16-inch long, 1/2 inch drill bit and drill into your controls cavity from that location up there. It's not that difficult, but it's just one more operation that by doing it this way, it made for a very beautiful, clean, and seamless build. And then, but Ed did elect to go with the top mount potentiometer 3-way. So I'll be machining a small hot dog size hole up there, or just access just enough to allow my wiring harness to come in. And whether we put it in, like this, Ed, if that's your call, it's your guitar, or not. And then there you have it. But if I put it in like this, I may machine this cavity just a little bit deeper to allow all of my wiring, because you'd be surprised. Well, no, you wouldn't, because you've done a little bit of tech work yourself. There's quite a bit of wiring coming out from up under that. If the 3-way is going in this way, then your wiring is able to stop. Well, everything is configured back here, so it's not risking interfering with your switching. But if we're going to turn this, I got to be real careful that I'm actually able to even do it without creating a cluster or creating a risk of stuff wiring getting into that. So just bear with me as I'm thinking through that as we're working on that design. But nonetheless, we'll figure it out as we go. But I'm not sure why I brought that up, other than probably, and please don't think I'm not being difficult at all. I definitely want to work with you on that. But I think I was just talking about how, not really sure what prompted that. It was probably just the fact that I was trying to do as much clean channel work before I glue the top down as possible. That's kind of what I was thinking, but I wasn't able to verbalize. And so I like that. I think that's cool. And let me check the time. 47 minutes. Yeah, that definitely ate up some time going into that conversation. So with that said, let me get it cleaned back up and look at the table. There's nothing to talk about in relation to the neck yet, but Ed and I both are pretty much on the same page as far as the neck profile design, and it's very similar to the design I typically always do, but it's going to be a little bit different per his request. And it's really cool because he's actually played a guitar that I built for Eric, the 69 SG, and he was able to tell me what he wanted to be a little bit different. So that's really rare that you get to build a custom guitar for someone and them have actually gotten to play one of your guitars. Because if it was way out in left field, especially like if he was telling me, oh man, I definitely want to go with like a real thick 59 neck or something like that, which he wasn't. If that were the case, then I would have said, well, I'll tell you what, let's go with the Stuart McDonald profile. What's that little pointer? I love this thing as a pointer. And then that way I could use the Stuart McDonald template and actually build a 59 neck with the, massive round little thick neck on it per template. And then, so I'll say that to say this, even if someone wanted a different type guitar, I love building really different necks as well. And I don't have a problem with going, completely from my traditional soft D jazz neck to like a 50, well, this is a 1954 Les Paul. So it would have been the baseball bat almost. Would have been a super chunky little neck. Looking at the table, we've already talked about, I'll be going with hard steel zinc The only thing I'll cover here is when I install the studs in your body, Ed, I will be doing I had it wired earlier. Okay. I'll be doing an internal ground wire that is fed from the side of the anchor. So once this anchor hole gets drilled with it's a half-inch drill bit, whatever depth we're going down, then in the side I'll drill a 1/8 inch hole and I'll feed an internal ground wire in through there because these anchors will be getting epoxied into the body. But once this anchor presses in, it will then make incredible contact with the side of that internal ground and make for a very beautiful internal ground wire that's already in the body. Okay, and you're probably yawning by now, but I like doing stuff like that because it's incredibly professional and it's in keeping with original designs so that you're not just trying to solder something in later on. And the reason I bring that up, if you're building a custom guitar, uh, know when it's the appropriate time to do certain things like that because it's very easy as you're progressing through the operation. But if you forgot to do something like that, then it might be a bit of a nightmare trying to find a good ground location without making a mess or it looking like you forgot and made a mistake. So I really don't see anything else on the table that we need to talk about. We talked about the P90 locations just enough to know that we still need to have that conversation. But yeah, I was pretty clear about how the whole layout of the guitar, the actual ending location of the bridge, and the ending location of the fretboard will truly dictate where the P90s go, which then will dictate exactly where the P90s go in relation. I know this is a repeat, but then the P90s will dictate exactly where how I machine the pick guard. Because I was thinking of this the other night. It's like, there's a possibility I might have to readdress what's going on in this little corner here. So let's stay on this for just a brief moment. Here is your original Gibson design. Spot on. That pick guard comes off the as soon as that flat begins to end and radius, right before it starts to radius, that is basically identical to where the pick guard stop point or start point is. However, since the P90 is a considerably different and more narrow pickup, it is moved further to the front. It is moved. This is actually incredibly important from a design standpoint. Because why? Because Gibson was not putting P90s on a 1958 Explorer, so we can't see what it was, what their thought process might have been to correct that variation right there. Because I've got a 1/16 inch radius, if not less, on this little. Yeah, probably less on the M69 cover, but I've got a 1/4 inch radius on the Lollar. Okay, let me get a better one. That one has a, and I know Ed and I are on the same page, but I just want you guys to kind of see the thought process behind building. When you change a design, you change everything, and you got to really think through the transition into going to this right here, which I've already covered. But you see how this has the considerable uh, wider radius, the 1/4 inch radius or a 1/2 inch router bit. So therefore, the question I might have is, I wonder if I might have to design this pick guard a little bit differently. I might have to change. I might have to change not this right here, but I might have to allow this to continue just a little bit more before it turns up into that location right there. And I'm kind of thinking that's probably what they would have done. It probably would have looked something like that right there. I don't think they would have done this type stuff right here. You know, yeah, I guarantee you they weren't. They weren't going to dare create some sort of weird ass little radius right there. If anything, what they were going to do, they were going to carry this line a little bit farther before they turned up and then change the location of that screw hole. Okay, but the P90 will most likely fall in that location right there. So that's what I meant by the fretboard will determine where the bridge goes, and then the end of the fretboard will determine where the P90 goes, both P90s, and then the two P90s will determine the pickguard. So using Stuart McDonald templates for the most part to get us in the right arena, but it's definitely a custom guitar. Okay, so I'll check the time, 56 minutes or so. Let me look at the table briefly. There's no sense in showing the mahogany. Plus, I'll have to put on a pair of gloves. The thing's just a big fur ball. I think it's 14 inches wide and it's over 2 inches thick and it's 7 feet long. So that's what I joked with Ed. It's basically a tree, but it's very much rough cut, and you have to put gloves on to handle it. Otherwise, actually, there's a splinter I still have not gotten out from where I bought the wood. I keep forgetting. So I'll show that in the future when we start machining the future body. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do with this one is probably just go ahead and stain it with the walnut stain and a denatured alcohol, the trans tint that I used to build Eric's SG neck and do all that stuff, because that will give this thing a really beautiful dark base coat. And then, if anything, we'll use this body as reference as we're building this guitar. But fairly soon, very soon, I'll be going ahead and moving into uh, 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 guitar body rough out mode and starting over and building another body. And it won't be wide enough to do a full width guitar. And speaking of that, Ed, I'll have to make a determination of whether I do a glue line perfectly right down the middle, or if I do just one simple glue line way up high. It just depends on what I see once I plane that wood through my planer. Once it reveals what is there, then I'll better be able to make the determination of how to do any glue up work that is there. There'll be a little bit of glue up work, but it might be that it only falls down here. In other words, I might build the whole guitar from this point down until I let me grab my tape measure. Oh man, where's the tape? I think it's 14. Yeah, see the Explorer. It's ridiculous. And I got to tell you, I completely understand why they quit building this guitar back in the 50s. Is everything about it is just very took a lot of material and a lot of labor. It's 16 inches. If you just had a square or a rectangular board and it's one piece, it would have to be a minimum of 16 inches wide just to get to that point. But see, then there's an additional 2 inches down there, and that's what I meant by, you'd be working with an 18 to 20 inch wide single board if you were just making one-piece bodies. I'm not saying that mahogany is not available, because trust me, you can get mahogany slabs that are enormous and 3 or 4 inches thick. But that I know that might not be the case now, because with the cities type oversight, and the 1980s are pretty much over. They don't have that type availability anymore. So with that said, I'll end the video right there, and the next video will be probably the different body machined out and ready, and even the maple machined out. Again, this is not a how to build this guitar series. This is just strictly for the client to see my thought process behind, things like those P90s and pick guards and crap like that. So he can obviously see the progress, but also help me build the guitar, man, by telling me what he does want or does not want. So, but if you guys can get some benefit out of watching the series, then that's cool as well. So, with that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.